Hiya, Christian Henson from Spitfire Audio here with our Back to School special. Now, to make music for picture, you don't need much these days. Just a computer, a monitor, controller keyboard, sound interface, DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, Pro Tools or Logic, something like that. I think many people would then say what you need is a sample library or a sound set, and in what must be sample developer suicide, I actually would recommend the first thing you need to get after all of that is a microphone, because one of the quickest routes to you developing your own voice is to create your own sounds, and that certainly has led on to great things with a lot of the experimenting I've been doing over the years. I'm a terrible guitarist, so I love picking up stringed instruments. I'm really jealous of people who can play them. But what I always do when I pick up a stringed instrument is make a virtual instrument of it, according to my kind of aesthetics. And it's one of those experiments that I did with the Chirango just over 10 years ago that led me into this whole sampling adventure with Spitfire. So I've got my very good friend here, Seb, and we're just going to run through how I go about making a quick virtual instrument that is just for my use for my kind of aesthetic.
This is a yukin or moon guitar,
right.
Chinese instrument used in opera and now I think just whatever you want really.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I think one of the nice things about getting stuff like this is, and even hearing you play it, it doesn't sound like a Chinese instrument.
It's kind of got that kind of twangy but resonant sort of vibe.
And we like sampling stuff with fewer strings and a smaller neck. The way I'd like to do this, often we would do something called round robins, which is you record the same note a few times, but I personally find programming those really tricky. So what I will do is just go for several dynamic layers, which is louds and softs, a bunch of different notes. But the key thing, Seb, is, and this is like used to be sampling 101, is I'd like you to try and play every note so it's different. If I could, I mean, badly demonstrate. So the way I would go about this top note is I'd go quiet, and then I'd use a different finger for the louder, and then I might use my nail for the really loud, and then the next one I might play with two. So you just put in as much chaos as possible. And I would say also, if you make a couple of schnorbitzes, I will actually leave those in. So maybe, just something where it doesn't sound as well. And it's only having done it a few times that I realise the more random elements you put in, the more instantly realistic it'll be. The other thing for me is the magic in sampling happens at the very quietest levels. I don't know why that is. I think there's something very interesting harmonically that happens, but also where the note is at its most fragile, I think it sounds the most realistic. For me, when we do samples of pianos, like the forte or the loud levels are always the ones that sound the most synthetic. I don't know why. So what we'll do is, really, really, as quietly as possible really is where the magic will be. And the other thing I'd really love, if possible, is for us to do like a tremolando but very unmeasured. So the big challenge we have with sampling is the minute you start playing chords, you're doubling the number of players, the instrument in the room. So if we were to do a tremolando, as you probably would do on a mandolin, like that, the minute you play more notes, it sounds like a kind of mandolin panic attack. So it's kind of aleatoric, speeding, very unmeasured, speeding up and slowing down, quite slow. The other weird thing about this is it's the whole thing resonates, isn't it? You'd usually get if you had a sound hole here, Seb, would you usually put the microphone around there on the beginning of the neck?
Yeah, I think you usually try and avoid actually going straight in front of the sound hole, so you avoid all that kind of boomy low end. Yeah. So either just across from it or just down from it. Yeah. It's really a matter of taste and sort of adjusting it to fit.
I think also don't be scared of a bit of distance, because what we hear from instruments is the air moving. So if you put it up in front of the instrument so there's no air in front of it, you're not going to get a natural sound from it, really.
Well, you never put your ear that close. So.
And I hear so many records where everything is recorded and produced like your ear is next to it. And I think it gives a very 2D kind of imagery.
Definitely, yeah.
So we've basically what we did with this microphone, this is quite a posh M149, and that's a condenser, is that right?
Yes, well, valve condenser.
Valve condenser. There are so many brilliant kind of mics on the marketplace that aren't as expensive as these, but this really does sound gorgeous. But the thing I think that you should do first is actually use your ear, and if the guitarist doesn't mind, you get your head kind of around the instrument. It's difficult now that the microphone is here to hear where the sweet spot is, and I think what you're listening to, what you're wanting is a balance of that nice top end that you get from guitars and the roundness, but not too much of either. So if it's sounding too toppy, it's likely you might be too far up the neck. If it's sounding too boomy, it'll be because you're kind of over the body. It doesn't really apply with this instrument because it's a closed body, and it's not particularly it's not got loads of fat bottom end. But excellent. So what I'll do is I'll sit down and we'll just literally start from the bottom and we'll sample it diatonically, so every other note.
Cool.
Excellent. Let's do that. Okay, so we're just going into tools. And we're rolling. And this is the hardest thing, is I have to sit really still. So it's really quite, when you're in the same room as them, it's really quite agonising. So,
no tummy rumbling.
No tummy. Yes. Don't have a massive kebab with loads of chili sauce before doing, because I've got so many sample libraries with which is my stomach. Anyway.
That's how it goes.
Okay, brilliant. Fantastic. So the last thing we need to do is sit in silence for how long would you say? We need to grab a wild track?
That's 30 seconds maybe.
30, that's a long time. Okay, so everyone nice and quiet, and we've just got to sit here with the microphone in place with it still recording just to capture the wild track. Great, and then it's into post-production. Nice one, Seb.
Job's here, Dan.
Brilliant, excellent. Okay, so I must stress that this isn't a how to edit in Pro Tools tutorial, or indeed how to make a sample instrument in Contact. In fact, I'll be using EXS24. It's just the spirit of how I approach it. The first thing I'm doing here is sample rate converting down from 96k to 48, which I think is a much more usable clock rate. And then I'm going to noise reduce it. I'm using isotope. Again, there's many ways that you can do this. It's just this instrument is very, very quiet. So I'm going to take that room tone that we sat very quietly and recorded. I'm going to hit denoise, and then I'm using the best kind of highest quality settings. I get the isotope to learn the noise in the background, and then what I do is I whack in the sample, and after fiddling around a bit, I just hit process and then have a cup of tea. Okay, so I'm reducing the noise floor by about 24 dB, which is a huge amount, but the instrument was really quiet and the mic wasn't particularly close. So let's see what that looks like. If we look here, we can click on the original. You can see there on the spectrograph that it's greatly reduced. Okay, what I'm going to do is export that. Just going to suffix it NR, noise reduced. Okay, so here's a Pro Tools session that I've set up. Just going to drag that in, push it up against the marker so I kind of know where I am. And then first thing to do is I'm going to set my nudge at 500 milliseconds, because I'm basically going to snip to the transient and then go back 500 milliseconds. So this is the tabbed transient. So if I hit tab and then minus, I go back 500 milliseconds. This preserves the beginning of the sample so you can tweak it within the sampler engine, which is a far better way of doing it. So I'm just going to create a fade for the end so we don't get a build-up of noise floor if you hit a lot of the same note twice. So here we go, and let's chop to the end there, get rid of the silence there, and then here we go, tab, minus, split, and then go to the end, and split, and then fade out. Then I'm going to consolidate these files. Good to rename the track so you have your prefix that you want to use. And there we go. So when we consolidate, we'll have that. We just need to put the note name in and the dynamic, which is piano or quiet. So it's piano for quiet, P for quiet, F for loud, which is forte, and MF for medium, which is mezzo forte. Okay, consolidate that. And then we go and do that across every single note. There are cheeky little ways you can do it with stuff like strip silence, but this has got quite a lot of, it's so quiet it doesn't really hear it, if you know what I mean. So let's move along. And here's, by the time you get to the end, you start getting really fast as it, you get kind of muscle memory up and stuff. And that's the very last note there. So if we go to the bottom of the screen, we can have a look at all of those lovely samples to work with. So let's export those. And then I'm going to bring them into Logic. Again, you know, you could do it in whatever, Contact. It's just I'm a bit of a EXS24. Well, I wouldn't say ninja. I just know how to use it and not so hot on Contact. So here we go. Let's grab the EX24. Bless, look at it. That lovely interface that has never, ever changed. Let's open the sample maker screen, I think it's called. Well, that's what I call it. I'm just going to literally grab everything, pull it in. So let's lasso everything, add it all, and then done. In it comes. Now EXS will auto map according to those note values that we gave it. It's automatically created a group. So because we've got 3 dynamic layers, I'm going to make 3 groups. So let's call this one the first group. Let's call it P for piano, quiet. Here we go. And then the next one, let's say. And then the next one, forte. And I'm just going to go back to piano and just grab all the fortes. So this is when being really good at titling and why our editors are, I mean, incredibly good at what they do, but we recommend you only do 2 days work a week on this kind of editing, because if you make mistakes, it's very difficult to unravel them. So here's all the fortes. And just going to grab those, whack them into the forte. It's a bit weird. It doesn't look even, that. Just investigating it. Okay, so that goes in the forte, and then grab all of the mezzo fortes. So back to piano, mezzo fortes, MFs. Here we go, nice and quick. Drag those into the MF group. Here we go. Now I've got a mystery. We seem to have an extra A3P. So that looks quiet. That looks a bit louder. So if I just check, let me check the forte. So that's there. That's fine. That's really loud. We can see that. Let's go back to. Oh no, it doesn't. I see what's happened. Okay. So again, some poor titling on my part, and that's an example of why you really need to concentrate. So just let's drag that into. So that's sad. It means that we can have a wrongly titled sample, which I probably won't sleep tonight now, knowing that. Okay, so now setting the velocity ranges, so where which group plays at which strength that you hit the note, and really up to 90, it's not that detailed when you play, so you just got to wear it right at the top. Okay, now I've loaded an electric piano sound, so you can hear the gap, that 500 millisecond gap. So what we need to do is we need to get the sampler to play further into all the samples. Now 48K, 24,000 samples is the same as 500 milliseconds by my calculations. So I've just lassoed everything, typing 24,000. There we go. Okay, just to see how that velocity stuff feels. Okay. Now I'm going to adjust the ADSR so it's not too hot coming in, and then it doesn't die, with the release, it doesn't die completely dead. Oh, sounds very... Ooh, fruity tuning. So that's the next very boring thing to do. So I've loaded up a sine wave in the EXS, another one. Just let me turn that down. And I'm just going to tune it by ear very quickly. Ooh, tasty. Okay, so it sounds very sharp to me. It gets sharper as it gets louder. Oh, that's better. Okay, so that's me having done the first pass of tuning all of those notes. I'm going to try that with some splosh. I usually spend about an afternoon doing some really fine tuning and adjusting all the different volumes and stuff like that. But here's my rough first pass at the Moon guitar. Thanks for listening.